So here we go. We're going to draw a skull and we're going to keep it rather simple. So you're going to be looking at important shapes today. A circle, a bucket, a heart, a tombstone, and some glasses. Let's take a look at how to do that easily. Let's draw a skull, basically from head on. So we're going to start with our simple shapes. First shape is obviously the foundation of everything. In this case, happens to be a circle. This circle does not have to be perfect. In fact, in most times, I'm actually drawing multiple circles right over top of each other until I feel that I'm comfortable with that shape. I'm going to follow that up by drawing a cup. That cup is going to imagine, if you can imagine, sort of looks like it's sitting right below the circle. Or you could imagine it like a basketball about to hit a basketball hoop. So it's touching, it's sitting right at the bottom of that circle, and it looks like it's sort of balancing on this very short, stubby cup. That cup is going to be the jawline and where the teeth and the bottom of the nose is going to be located within your design. We're going to follow that up then with the third of the simple shapes, which is we're going to drop in a set of glasses. Those glasses are really nothing more than eye sockets. We're going to draw those. Most important thing to those eye sockets is we want to imagine that they're sort of like broken glasses. So we're going to draw them at a slight angle. They're going to be really large, and they're going to almost touch the edge of the side of the skull. So I'm going to drop in one, and then I'm going to drop in the second one. And again, I'm going to make sure that they almost touch the edge and they come very close to touching each other in the center, but they're going to leave enough room to kind of work a nose into there. A lot of times, just to help myself visually, I'll sort of shade them in roughly. I'll just do a rough shade for now so that I kind of mentally know where they are. I'm going to come back to them in a little bit and to be able to add more detail and help myself out to get a better understanding of what I'm doing. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to drop in the nose. In this case, it's not really a nose, it's a nasal cavity, and we want to draw a hole. So sometimes I'll actually erase some of the lines where that circle and that cup meet so I can make it a little easier on myself. I told you that the fourth of all the shapes is a heart. So this heart, I'm actually going to draw upside down. That upside down heart is going to actually be a very similar shape to that of the nasal cavity. I'm going to break the heart, so I'm going to give it sort of a crooked, broken middle section so that it looks separated. And most important thing to making it look like a nasal cavity is instead of having a point at the top of the heart, I'm going to round out the tip of that heart. So since it's an upside down heart, the point would obviously be normally pointing upward, but I'm going to soften the edge of that so that it looks a little bit more like the nasal cavity in the skull that you see there sitting in front of me. Now we're going to begin the mouth. When you look at the mouth, you want to actually think of it more like a smiley face. So I'm going to draw what I imagine to be a giant smiley mouth. I'm going to start at the far side of the cup or the jawline that we dropped in a few minutes ago. And I'm going to draw it from the right side to the left side, just like a big old smiley face. I'm going to put a secondary smiley face, or which will eventually be the spot where I'll drop in the bottom rung of teeth. And I'll do the very same thing, going from right to left. So now I've got this big cartoon looking smiley face. This is going to be the foundation where I set up all my teeth. Most people, when they draw teeth, think of each individual tooth, but I like to set up first the mouth shape. Then I'm going to draw what I imagine to be the fifth of the shapes that I introduced to you, which is that of a tombstone. So if you kind of think of it like a rounded top with a semi-rounded, almost flat bottom, think of it like a tombstone sitting in a graveyard. That's actually what all the teeth on this skull will look like. So I'm going to start with the two center teeth. I'm going to do those two in the front that are aligned right below the nasal cavity or the nose. If you do those first, all the other teeth are sort of anchored around those teeth. The most important thing after you drop in those two front teeth is that every tooth that you draw going back into space should get a little thinner and a little shorter because you want them to appear like they're actually rounding or going around the curve of the mouth. So maybe hard to see on my video here, but I've actually drawn each individual tombstone, and in each tombstone's case, it gets a little shorter and a little skinnier. So by the time I get to the back of the mouth, they're really thin. Now we're going to finish with some details. So we're going to look at a few key important things. We want to make sure that we sort of address the fact that the chin is a little more refined. It's got kind of like a chiseled jawline to it. So as you watch me draw on this demonstration here, you're going to notice how I sort of go back in and sort of add sort of a chiseled jawline. Doesn't matter whether it's male, female, age, they all have a chiseled jaw. So I'm going to go back in, add a few more details here. I'm also going to draw in sort of the bone structure that sits around the bottom of the eye. So now that you've had some basic tutorials on how to draw what looks like a very complicated shape, your job is to draw a minimum of 3, I would highly recommend 5, drawings from different points of view of the same skull. So try it out, use some of those tutorials that we talked about using the cup, the circle, the heart, the tombstone and the glasses. And you too